Hello from Seoul. Thanks a lot for clicking on this video, and for everyone new here, nice to meet you. My name is Victoria and I do videos about Korean culture, Korean food, Korean cafes, and I've been living here for over 4 years now, so wow. I don't consider myself an expert, but I have some experience. Anyway, today's video is gonna be about my experience as an exchange student at a Korean university here in Seoul. I won't mention the name of the university because, you know, I don't have the best experience and I want to share everything with you, and in case you really want to know, then, you know, so the reason why I came to Korea in the first place was because, well, many things actually. I was doing my master's degree and the program was a little bit mediocre. We had one cool professor, he was the bomb, but everything else was not living up to my expectations. And I also broke up with my ex-boyfriend after many years, and I just needed a change. I just wanted to get out of Germany, and I thought if I want to go abroad and experience some abroad life, then this is the last chance before I graduate and settle down in Germany. Man, little did I know back then. So before coming here, of course, I watched many videos on YouTube from other students that were studying here in Korea, and I formed this picture how my experience here would be like, and let's just say it turned out to be very different, which is not bad because of course everyone is different, everyone will have a different experience, but I think my experience was more on the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, so that's why I want to share my experience so that you can know how it's like if you're maybe planning to study abroad here, or maybe you're just interested in Korea. And yeah, of course, take it with a grain of salt. Not every university is the same, and yeah, but I think I don't have to tell you that. I'm sure you're not as stupid as I was when you came here, and I'm sure you know more about Korea before coming here, because it was a very spontaneous decision to come to Korea, and I basically didn't know anything about Korea except like EXO and K-drama, and that the food is spicy. I couldn't even read Korean. Maybe I shouldn't share all that stuff because you will think, oh man, she is like really, why did she do that? The first thing that I didn't quite expect was that living in a dorm is basically like living in a military facility. We had a curfew every day at 11:30. That curfew also included a roll call. No, what? Roll call curfew? I mean, I'm always mixing that up. I'm sorry. Every day some random floor had to get out of their room, and everyone had to stand in front of the door and they would check who's there. Sometimes they would even go inside the room and check in the bathroom and close it if we're hiding someone. I know. I'm already getting hot and sweaty. You know, this is why I waited so long to film this video, because whenever I think back, they were also closing the facility at 12 at night. So if you arrived at 12:03 and you already missed the roll call and curfew, then you couldn't enter. And then some students had to go to a jjimjilbang, you know, to a sauna, or find a motel in the area so that they can sleep there or hang out at a 24 hours cafe. The dormitory was for women only, so men were not allowed inside at any moment of time, except that once a term when there was this dormitory party. I've never been to the dormitory parties. Yeah, but that was basically the only time men could actually enter the dorm. Also, no visitors were allowed after 7. Once I came with my mom to the dormitory because I wanted to show it to her, and she wasn't even allowed to use the bathroom. Another weird thing is that no one spoke English there. So even though it was a dorm for foreigners only, for female foreigners only, I noticed how Western-centered that sounds, but you know, when they're only foreigners, and many also couldn't speak Korean before coming there, so it would make sense to hire someone who can at least communicate a little bit in English. There was this one girl working there, she was the only one who could speak English. She was so sweet. I really liked her, but she also wasn't always there, so if there was any problem, then yeah. Another peculiar thing was that every few weeks we had to spend money on some random stuff. There were always polls what we could get, so we could choose between some tumblers or blankets or little towels and things like that, and you had to buy it no matter what, even if you didn't want it, even if you didn't need it. Also, the things weren't exactly nice to begin with. There was no way out, and you know, things like that really upset me. I mean, it wasn't a lot. I think it was 10,000 or something like that, so like around €8, but it's still dishing out money for things that you don't want, for things that you don't like, and yeah, not sustainable whatsoever. Other than that, we also had a penalty point system. For example, every day someone had to clean the kitchen, and if you didn't clean the microwave properly and there was like one smear somewhere, then you would get a penalty point for that. Or when you don't attend the roll call because you were already sleeping. If you gathered a certain amount of penalty points, then they would kick you out of the dormitory, and they really did. 2 girls that were also in my language class, they actually got kicked out and they had to find a new place very quickly. And I mean, we are paying for the dormitory. We are all grown-ass adults. I mean, what the... yeah, man, that dormitory was hell. So, needless to say, as soon as I finished my language class, I was out of there, and I still had 3 more months in Korea back then, and I just moved in with Saigon, and thank God. I never appreciated my freedom so much. The rooms where we were staying were also very small. By very small, I mean like 6 or 8 square meters, including the bathroom and shower. But that's okay. So there was basically a bed, and then here we had desk and some shelves, and yeah, and that's it. Okay, next let's talk about my language class. So I really don't want to turn this into a rant, but the language class was really... During my entire stay, I attended 3 courses, and it was daily for 4 hours. We were bombarded with so much vocabulary and grammar every day. It was basically impossible to memorize everything. Even after finishing the first course, we didn't even know how to construct a sentence, but we knew all the grammar and all the words, but were unable to use it. That alone already tells you how good the classes were. And another problem was that the teachers didn't understand English, so whenever you had a question, good luck with that. Because of course in the beginning my Korean wasn't good enough to be able to ask the question in Korean, especially when it's grammar related stuff. It's a little bit more complex, you know. So I was just trying to understand the grammar based on the explanations in the book. Later it turned out that they weren't that accurate after Saigon checked it out. And he was saying, yeah, but what's written there, that's not true. Yeah, great. Yeah, so the explanations in the book were very weird and ambiguous, to the point where I had to buy another book where the explanations were actually good and understandable. Whenever we had some tests, it was always multiple choice, so it was more about memorizing the right answers than really think for yourself. By the way, this is also how they teach English, and honestly, I totally understand why not so many Koreans are able to speak English if they teach it that way. And I feel really sorry, because this weird system is really counterproductive and no one is benefiting except the cram schools. Oh yeah, well, that's another topic. Back to our topic. I could have done another language class while I was staying with the university, but after the 3rd one, I mean, the 3rd course was already such a pain, and I also wanted to get out of the dormitory, so I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'm out, bye. As an exchange student here, everyone got a buddy from the university, you know, someone who would pick you up from the airport and help you settling in and apply with you for the alien registration card and explain how the university works and things like that. All the exchange students were wondering why they are always so eager on taking selfies with you, and later I found out through someone who was working at the international office that those buddies will get paid if they meet us a certain amount of times, and they had to write reports and send them pictures as a proof how many times we've met. I guess that's why they were eager to take so many selfies. And I almost felt cheated on because I was so thankful to my buddy and I was treating her so much and paying for so much food and drinks and everything, and later it turned out they were probably just doing that for the money because many buddies just disappeared after a certain amount of time. And actually there was this one funny story. So this one girl from my dormitory, she was also from Germany by the way, she apparently had a double life because her buddy wrote a report and said they were doing this and going to the cinema and like here and there and this and that, and it was all not true. She got asked by the international office if she actually went there, and yeah, needless to say, her buddy also disappeared. Another problem was that there were many miscommunications in general. I guess you can't avoid that. For example, before coming here, I contacted the international office and asked whether I have to bring a blanket, and they said no, everything is provided. So I didn't bring one, and surprise, there was no blanket. And the first 2 or 3 nights I was sleeping in like all my hoodies and under my winter coat. Yeah, I also couldn't reach my buddy, and it was also the weekend, so I thought all the stores would be closed and I can't buy a blanket. Little did I know about Korea's 24/7 culture. Another thing, and I already mentioned that in some previous videos, so I won't talk about it too much, and I'm already talking about it a lot by just explaining that. Anyway. So there was this positive racism. As a foreigner at the university, we were getting a lot of attention and people wanted to be friends with you because you are a foreigner and it's cool to hang out with foreigners. And I would always give people the benefit of the doubt, but then when they always bring their homework and ask them to help them out, and you're like, I thought we all hang out. Yeah. You know, other people get paid for that. Just saying. I mean, I also understand that because they maybe were never in touch with a foreigner before because it's a very homogeneous society here, but you just want to be seen for who you are and not for your skin color and cultural background. I mean, of course, that's also what makes you you, but when you're exposed to it a lot, at some point, it's just so pointless, you know? Next, I would like to touch upon the education system a bit more because I experienced big differences in terms of teaching methods than what I was used to at a German university or also school. So, for example, in Germany, they would always inform us about a certain topic and we would talk about the pros and cons, and we were always encouraged to form our own opinion on the topic. And here it was more like, it's like this is the question, this is the correct answer, next. And that kind of mindset was also showing in the tests because around 90% of the tests were always multiple choice, and the remaining 10% was usually something that we had to memorize beforehand or something that was a homework. You know, since my major was graphic design, I was very excited to come to a Korean university and experience Korean design and get to know more about the Korean design scene. So I enrolled in a class that sounded very interesting to me, but the class wasn't anything that I expected. And before you think that I'm super spoiled, let me elaborate. Every week we had to copy a drawing from a book 6 times, and then the next week we had to copy the drawing on the next page 6 times, and guess what we had to do the week afterwards? Exactly, we had to copy the drawing from the next page 6 times. In Germany we call that Beschäftigungstherapie. So yeah, I didn't feel like I could learn a lot in the class. Needless to say, I ditched the class. I also didn't need the credits anyway, so yeah. Oh man, this was really frustrating. I'm sorry that this is so negative, but also sugarcoating it won't help anyone also, so yeah. But on the other hand, we also had a really great professor. She was teaching us about Korean pop culture, and her insights were so interesting. She was really woke and also fluent in English, so it was so great to just be able to follow a class. And she was also encouraging us to have discussions, although I noticed that only the foreign students were engaged. I guess discussions is just not really a thing that they teach you here. I was always looking forward to her classes every week. Another thing that I wasn't a big fan of was the relative grading system. So in case you don't know what relative grading system is, like I didn't know, let me explain. It works like this. It's basically about lining up all the people and giving them the grades based on how they performed in comparison to other people, but it's not about what they actually delivered. I don't know the exact numbers, but like 10% are supposed to get an A, then the next 20% will get a B, the next 30 a C, and you know, like this. But if the same people would be in another class, then with the same performance they would get a different grade because of the results of the other people. Was that clear? Anyway, so my point is, it's not fair, and I don't understand why you don't get a grade based on your performance, and that makes the studying environment very competitive. So I found out about this grading system when I offered some Korean girls from that Korean pop culture class to explain the things to them, because I noticed that they weren't able to follow what the teacher was saying. So I offered them that we can study together, and they were so touched and told me that no one ever offered them to study together because of the competitive environment. And isn't that really sad? That's so toxic, isn't it? I mean, who benefits from this kind of system? The cram schools, maybe? Maybe this is what it's all about. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, back to the topic. To make everything more competitive and more stressful, we also had midterms. In case you didn't know, midterms are like end terms, but in the middle of the term, as the name already implies. We never had them in Germany, and little did I know how blessed I was why I was studying in Germany. The last thing that I will mention upset me the most, I think. It was the German department that our university here had. So sometimes the teachers would invite us to a dinner or to a lunch with the other German exchange students and also with some other students, and the professors were Korean and they were always speaking to us in German, but it was so hard for me to understand them, and my German is good. I mean, I don't think I need to justify myself. I was born and raised in Germany, of course. My German is good. And I'm also quite used to understand weird German because the area where I'm from is very multicultural, and there were always some people with migration background in my life. My family also has some migration background, so I'm used to that. But it was so hard for me to understand the professors, and then when you ask, what? Can you say that one more time? For the third time, and then you don't understand again and you have to pretend that you understood it. That was uncomfortable, but what really upsets me is that they are teaching other people. How can they teach other students German if I can't understand them? And they're getting paid for that. I mean, you gotta agree that this feels a bit wrong, right? Okay, I think that was enough bashing for now. Now I will bash myself a little bit. One thing that I definitely underestimated were the cultural differences. Of course, I informed myself about the Korean culture, and you know, you learn things like you have to bow and give things with two hands and all that stuff. But there are also many cultural differences in daily activities that you wouldn't really expect. For example, when you're sick. So, when you're sick in Germany, then you just stay at home or go to a doctor if it's really bad, and you sleep it off, and that's it, right? But here you have to drag yourself to the class and show how much you're suffering so that the teacher will send you home. So when I was sick here for the first time, I just didn't show up. I had a fever, I just wanted to sleep. And then the teachers were texting me and calling and saying, yeah, please answer, but in a very like ordering tone, like 대답하세요. My phone was muted, I was sleeping, so I didn't see that. Yeah, and that's how I found out that things work a little bit different here. A few months later, the next time I got sick, I just informed another student to tell them that I'm sick and that I'm not coming, because when I'm sick, I don't want to delay my recovery process by dragging myself to the class, and also you risk infecting other people when you go to the class. So it does make sense, right? And as a foreigner, this is a problem that you will encounter many times, because of course you want to be respectful of the culture, you want to fit in, and you don't want to be an inconvenience to other people, but you also have to respect your own boundaries. You know, when it comes to getting sick, I'm doing it the German way and I'm just staying at home. Yeah, I'm working from home anyway. To sum it up, the university experience was rather on the underwhelming side, but, and that's a very big but, that's the biggest but you can imagine. That sounds weird. Everything else that happened outside of the university was great. I made friends with girls from the dormitory and learned so much about their cultures. It widened my horizon on so many levels. Also, when it comes to opinions that you have towards other countries, yeah, when I was hanging out with all the girls, I noticed how similar we all are, and I also noticed how opinionated I was without even knowing it, and always considering myself very open-minded. I hope I'm way more open-minded now. Looking back, it was definitely the most exciting year of my life so far. Life is still exciting, don't get me wrong, but in a more settled way, which I appreciate. And let's ignore the current situation. During that exchange year, I also met Singon, which changed my life, obviously, and I'm very happy and very thankful for that. So overall, I definitely recommend studying abroad. 10 out of 10 would do it again, and all the experiences really overshadowed the mediocre university. And experiencing a new country and a new culture, it's so exciting and eye-opening, and at least the bad experiences still make a good story. Did they? If they did, like and subscribe. Yeah, okay, that was smooth and awkward, sorry. And you know, all the bad things, it really depends on the point of view, and to be honest, I think my privileged white butt also needed a bit of a humbling experience. I certainly appreciate a lot that I had the opportunity to study abroad in the first place. If you have any questions regarding studying abroad in Korea, you can write me in the comments, or if it's something more personal, you can also text me on Instagram. I always really appreciate receiving your messages, and it's so nice that there are so many people from all over the world. The internet is a great thing, isn't it? Yeah, feel free to ask me, maybe I can help you. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you got some value from this video, and stay safe, stay healthy, you know the drill, and see you next time. Bye!